continued potential for bus parking at the southern end, whether that's both sides of the road in the future, whether it's perhaps down the middle of the road in a realignment. It doesn't mean that it has to be on the Domain side of the road, but that there would be short stay tourist bus parking.
That's how I understood it. Yep. All right?
Yep.
Righto, we're now on page 16. Any comments there, alterations? Councillor McKelvey?
I just made the comment. I think the district planner wrote this.
Again.
Well, that's who I thought wrote it.
It's good to me.
Mm.
Or if he didn't, whoever wrote it well.
Ex-planner though, remember?
He was a planner. I remember when he used to come in here and stand up there like a little boy. And
oh! Well, now he's a little boy. What did you think I was?
Now, well, I won't comment on that, Mr. Gibbs.
You don't want to know.
I've never, when you were sitting here, sir, I never did so many tapping my fingers on the top of the desk and flicking my pen than I've ever done. But now Mr. Carroll is a big boy and he has 5 children, so he's a grown-up man now.
Perhaps that's why in the last sentence on the first column, it talks about the desires to maintain a low-rise feel to the town centre.
All right.
Maybe that could be changed.
Okay. What?
Mr. Chairman, perhaps because we've had so much support from the community on that, it should be the community desire. Because that is one of the strongest things that comes through whenever we have an opportunity for the community to tell us about building height.
Yeah.
Right, guys?
Community design.
Community.
Page 61.
That's right, but it doesn't matter.
Same again. Taupo Boat Harbour. Page 62. Comments, Councillor McKelvey?
Well, if anyone else has got some first, I'm happy to sit back.
No, you can go.
The beach at the landing reserve, because the landing reserve, as we now know, goes right through to the other side. So maybe that little beach, does that have another name? The beach, or the beach in front of the yacht club?
No, it's the landing reserve.
Yeah, but the beach at the landing reserve, there's other...
People, what do you want changed? Refer me to a paragraph. Councillor McKelvey.
One of the most important things is when we get to this map, is that the Taupo Boat Harbour, I've always understood, or any boat harbour is based on the water. And then the land around it relates to that water, that interaction with the water. So that I would suggest that when we get to that map that we have Taupo Boat Harbour written right up the river. And further up it has Waikato River. That's a suggestion. But to begin with, in the first paragraph, presently suffering from poor access. Well, with all due respect, in other parts of the plan, it says you access it from the north, from Redoubt Street, and from the south, from Ferry Road. And it goes on and on and on about how you access it. I would suggest we take the word out, access, and just have poor signage and promotion. Otherwise, it's inconsistent.
I think the reference to that was the design work that Popamiskil had done had suggested that perhaps the linkage, the straightness of the linkage, the roads at the moment tended to take you on a bit of a journey to get there, and that's where the Story Place extension came from. So we were using that term that had come from the work that Popamiskils had done in having an independent look at it.
I would agree with that, but we are now addressing this policy document as it is now, and we address it with that future extension from improvement of the extension from Story Place. So in your opening sentence, if there are other parts of the document saying that you access from the north and the south to the Taupo Boat Harbour, I think it's inconsistent. And I'm suggesting
the discussion is still reflecting how you came to the decision that at some stage in the future the Story Place pedestrian link and then eventually vehicles would happen, came from the discussion around, hey, we can do better with access down here.
Yeah.
Councillor Kelly, do you want some changes, or you've got any suggested? Because I'm going to Councillor Heckling.
Well, I have suggested that we take out the word access because it's perfectly adequate in terms of access. When you're talking about linkage, it's not. But in terms of access, there's 2 tar sealed roads to it. Anyway, that's my suggestion. And in the bottom of page, the second paragraph, the added dimension all this provides would encourage people to stay longer because it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, fine with that.
And in the last paragraph on that side, on the left-hand side, the majority of the land is not administered by the Internal Affairs. What I would suggest you say here, the landing reserve area is administered by Internal Affairs. And if we're going to show where the landing reserve is on that very first map when we get back to it, Mr. Chairman, because all the land on the other side is either private, on the western side, or it's administered by council.
That's right.
Thank you.
All right, Councillor Heckling?
Yeah, I was just commenting on that first paragraph. I mean, apart from the long term of Story Place being vehicle access down to the boat harbour, we're really not improving any other access. It might be a bit straighter, but there's still only 2 accesses, that's Redoubt Street and Ferry Road.
Until Story Place.
So until Story Place, if and when it does have a vehicle access down, we're really not improving, are we?
Although eventually you might, it's just that you put that out as a lower priority. Yes. Having looked at it, you've decided that the access is okay for the time being. Yeah.
All right, let's make those changes. Councillor Bennett?
Yeah, thank you. Page 62, second paragraph, left-hand column, 5th line up, where we talk about people have both a swimming beach at lakeside, comma, and vehicle. Can I suggest we insert comma, cyclist and pedestrians?
No problem. Councillor Kelly?
On the right-hand side of page 62, second paragraph through the Tongariro domain, remembering that the Tongariro domain includes Riverside Park. So we're not just talking about Story Place. We've got direct access there for walking along the river. And then it says one of the reasons there are not more visitors to this location is that neither of the access points from Ferry Road at the south end and Redoubt Street to the north are direct. Well, you could have fooled me. I suggest you take out are direct and put to the north are enticing.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Anything else?
And then that's last sentence in that second paragraph, just a suggestion, Story Place needs to be spelt correctly, obviously. Better to connect the commercial and civic location with the lake and Taupo boat harbour. Please can we reword that commercial and civic location? I haven't a clue what you mean by that. Maybe the typewriter slipped. I think you actually mean the CBD.
Right. Anything else?
Well, yes, the CBD, but also that other area of the domain. So if you're around the library and the Great Lakes Centre and the museum, it is also about giving you a direct link down, and that's where the civic park came from.
Well, perhaps we could say recreational facilities. The CBD and the recreational facilities or something.
Because, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, have we used the word CBD anywhere else in this plan?
No, we've talked about
We
commercial areas, which we'll define right near the beginning. So perhaps if we refer to commercial areas in civic heart. In the sentence?
No, I don't
Can
like
We just have to be careful because there's some very successful commercial operations at the boat harbour, depending on the time of the year usually.
We don't need to connect them
I
to
know,
the boat
that's
harbour.
why the sentence doesn't make sense.
to better connect the town centre with the lake and the Taupo boat harbour.
Can we go back?
You guys got some concerns, please?
Well,
Because you're frowning.
can we go back? Perhaps we will use CBD when we're just referring to the commercial shops and everything component.
Yeah.
But let's not lose sight of the fact that this is the town centre includes the domain.
Exactly.
What we're trying to say is better connection between the other components in the town centre over here and the boat harbour over here. That's what we're talking about. And
And we're going to define commercial areas as those commercial areas to the east of Tongariro Street. So it should be quite clear, I think, once we've gone through that exercise, that it's about connecting those areas where people shop and go to cafes and so on with that boat harbour.
And just one other minor thing, fantastic historic photograph on page 63.
please.
And could we have a date, please?
Do you know
Maybe-
what it is?
And maybe just a little interpretation of what we're looking at.
70.
72 or something like that, I think.
Yeah.
You reckon?
If you can't find a date, don't put it on there because you're going to have people ringing you up and saying, you guys got
we
this all
find
wrong
the
again.
date. It's in the heritage
then?
section, I think. So
Right.
Police station,
Oh.
that's the call town.
Page 64, Mr.
Council chambers, all the council
That was the post office. And that was the community hall.
Carol, anything else? 64, page 64, please. Nothing on page 64? 65.
1983 it is.
No trees.
83.
I remember that year very, very well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Councillor Logan.
could I please just draw it to your attention on, just going back before we look at page 64, going back to that wonderful photograph from 1972 at the sort of northern end of the photo, at the end of the playing fields. Notice how few trees there are and compare it with today. And that explains why I have this, not obsession, but why I'm so concerned about chopping down the trees, because it's quite different without the trees.
What's the date? 83, wasn't it?
72.
about 70, 72. I would think, I don't know.
Well, somebody's confusing me here. Mr.
This
Carroll
photo-
said it's
we've-
1983.
Well,
okay.
we've found
This-
it in the
this one
heritage
here,
report,
83.
and it's
Oh.
got it's got 1983 on it. We've just pulled it out of the heritage report.
Well, I don't ever remember in my time here seeing all those clubhouses
Come on,
over
Keem,
there.
get with the program.
I can remember seeing it like that. Past.
I can remember 1983 too, because the guy nearly shot me.
I don't think it was 1983 though, that was one.
In about 80.
No, because
still got the
we came here in 75, and I don't remember seeing all those little clubhouses up there.
Well, they
they
was
were.
moved when we opened Delaney
Delaney
Park, and
Park.
that's our 25 years anniversary last year.
So that
This
was
year, beginning of this year.
1985.
So that was 85.
Yeah, they were there.
So,
Citizens Silver Band and all the rest.
Yeah, have we finished the history lesson?
sorry, Mr. Chair.
Thank
I should
you.
have spoken out of turn.
We all happy now it's 1983?
If that's what the
If that's what they
document
say,
says, we'll accept it.
Thank you. Page 64, please.
There's not a lot of change from 73.
Good, Tom, I've said that. Page 65. Page 66, and I don't know who that fellow is there with his arms up and he's talking flat out to dime to a dozen. And he's even in the next picture down the bottom there.
Can't stop him.
No.
Where's Wally?
Councillor McKelvey.
To give.